Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm actually going to be doing my birth story video. It's been long overdue. I haven't made a video since I was about 27 weeks pregnant, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. I really wanted to document the whole thing, my whole birth story, my whole vlog. But unfortunately, it didn't go as planned. My induction was super early scheduled, and we just didn't have the time to film it. So unfortunately, I didn't get to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. It was kind of a scary experience for me, but I just want other moms who are pregnant to kind of be prepared. Kind of prepare yourself for the scary, because I thought watching other people's birth videos and birth stories and birth blogs, that it was just going to be like, oh, this easy thing, and it's not. Labor doesn't always go as planned, and you just have to kind of prepare yourself for scary situations because it's not always easy. So my due date was originally October 12th, 2019. That was my due date from the get-go. Every ultrasound that I would go to, that was my due date. However, I was a high-risk pregnancy. If you watch some of my other videos, I only have like 3 other videos, but my first video I talk about why I'm a high-risk pregnancy. But in long-term short, I used to take Lovenox injections for a previous blood clotting issue, which would cause me to get induced. So I was never able to actually have the baby on my own progression, because if I was to need a C-section or if I was to hemorrhage, being on blood thinners, obviously you could bleed out and bleed to death, so they needed to manage the blood thinner that I was getting. So I was to get induced, but I was only to get induced at 39 weeks, and I ended up getting induced at 36 weeks going on 37. I can't really remember now. My baby is 6 months old this month, so I'm going to try and film more videos. I really want to do more YouTube videos and include him and do updates and everything like that, so keep an eye out for those. But yeah, so basically let's get into depth with this video. So I was scheduled for my induction on Friday, September the 20th at 10 a.m. So myself and my mom and my fiance went into labor and delivery at the hospital here and got set up for my induction. So basically the way that it works where I live is they do 2 cervidils. So you get a cervidil put in at 24 hours, and then you get checked, and then you get another one put in at 48 hours if you haven't had any progression. When I first went into the hospital, I was, I think, like half a centimeter dilated. I didn't really have any progression on my own. I was firm and closed. So I didn't have any effacement or dilation at all. So they went ahead and put my cervidil in, which was excruciatingly painful. Not as painful, obviously, as pushing a baby out, but it was really uncomfortable. It was really scratchy. It burned. It just felt like I had a really, really bad urinary tract infection, and then of course you have to pee a lot when they put that in. Normally, after they put that in, they would send you home. Well, where I live, they would send you home. I'm not sure about where other people live, but I had that put in, and yeah, then that night, it was just like a normal night, but we were in the hospital. So I mean, like, my mom brought me and my fiance food, and I watched my YouTube videos. We stayed the night there, and then the next morning I went down. I was having a little bit of cramps, but just felt like period cramps. So the next morning around like 12, it was 24 hours. So on the 21st, I went down and got checked. I was at a centimeter. So I literally progressed like 0.5 of a centimeter, if that. So they went ahead and took that cervidil out, put another one in, and we went back upstairs. About 4 hours later, after that, I started to feel contractions. So it was extremely bad back pain, tightening in the belly, everything like that. And it was just coming on really fast. I wanted to get pain relief. However, at my hospital, they have to check your cervix before they give you anything. And the problem with me is I have a very low pain tolerance, and every time that they would check my cervix, I'd basically have an anxiety attack because it would hurt so bad. So I had my cervix checked at the point where I felt like I had progressed a lot, and I was still at 1. I hadn't progressed at all, and I was like, I need something, so they gave me Addisol, and that kind of relaxed me a little bit, but I was still uncomfortable. After that, I was basically up all night long. It was just, the pain was just so bad, but I didn't want to get my cervix checked. So I would just be like, no, I'm waiting until the morning, until I go down, because after that I knew that after the 2 cervidils, they couldn't give me another one, so they had to try something else. So I went down the next morning, 48 hours after first coming in at 10 a.m. on the 20th. This was now Sunday, September 22nd. I went and my mom got the nurse, and she came in and she was just trying to put me like in yoga positions. And I was like, this is not really helping. I'm still super uncomfortable. I really need pain management. I really need to go downstairs. Like, I need to get this baby out. My leg was hurting so bad from my blood clot and being off of my blood thinners. So previous to this, I had never ever come off of them. So this was the first time that I was ever off of my blood thinners. So it was kind of, I was just all over the place. My emotions were hiked. I thought that I was going to have my baby like on the 20th. I thought you just get induced and have your baby, and you don't. So this was 48 hours, and it was literally no progression. And then I got a wheelchair down to, what was that room called? The case room. Yeah, I got a wheelchair down there. And when I got there, they put me in a delivery room with like the little baby thing and the monitors, and they hooked me up to the monitor, like on my belly with the belts and everything like that, and just made sure that my baby's heart rate was fine and everything like that. So his heart rate was good. They took the cervical out and checked me, and I was finally at 3 centimeters. So I was like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. So I was in so much pain that they decided to give me morphine. That kind of numbed the pain a little bit and put me to sleep for like 20 minutes. And then once that wore off, it was literally like 20 minutes. And then I told the nurse, I was like, I think I'm going to throw up. And she was like, no, you're fine. We're going to put you on Pitocin. So they put me on Pitocin. They started my drip and everything. And within 20 minutes of them doing that, I started to throw up everywhere. It was not a fun scene. You can ask my fiance. He still remembers it and says he will never get it out of his head. So it was not a fun time. So we went ahead and they said, we're going to go ahead and give you an epidural. Previous to that, I said that I wanted a complete natural birth with little pain management until you're in that position. And for those women who can give birth completely natural with no pain medication at all, kudos to you, because I could not do it. And that's why pain medication was made. So I mean, if you feel like you're like less of a woman because you can't give birth without medication, please don't feel like that, because it's made for a reason. Not everybody can do it naturally, and that's completely fine. If you have to have a vaginal birth or you have a C-section or whatever you have to do, just know that you're a mom no matter what happens, and you carried that baby for 9 months and you gave birth to that baby, and you should be proud of yourself. So I had my epidural, and basically I have notes here because, like I said, it was 6 months ago and it was so much going on so quick. So basically I had my epidural at 2 p.m. and then that just kind of completely relaxed me, and I had a like an adjustable epidural, so every time that I felt a little bit of pain, I could just push a button and then like more medication would come out. So I was happy as a lark. And then about like 2 hours later, around 4 p.m., I felt like my water broke because I could feel like I had like altered sensation in my legs, and I could feel like liquid on my leg. So my boyfriend came over, and my fiance, I should say, came over and looked, and it was certainly not my water breaking. It was actually a lot of blood with blood clots. So we paged the nurse, and the nurse came in and got my doctor, and both of them came in and just looked really worried. They checked my cervix, and I was about at a 7, but I was completely effaced. So they were like, we think that, it just might be some excess blood or anything like that. So I was like, okay, whatever. After that, my water did break. It broke about an hour later at 5 p.m. So it did break on its own. They didn't have to break it or anything like that. And that I could 100% feel. And then that was like completely different sensation. It was just like, poof. But obviously I couldn't get up out of the bed because I had an epidural. So I was just stuck in the bed. And then I started to bleed more and more and more. I was just soaking through like bed liners after bed liners after bed liners. I was losing a lot of blood, but they still weren't really like too worried. I mean, my baby's heart rate was fine, I was doing fine, my blood pressure was fine, everything like that. So they were just more like, it is what it is. And then 7:30 p.m. I started pushing, and then during pushing, my baby's heart rate started to go down. His heart rate was always like 130s, 150s, and it went down to about like 70. And then they couldn't get it, and then it would come back, and then they couldn't get it. So I didn't actually even get my doctor. My doctor was delivering another baby, so I actually had like a resident delivering my baby, basically. She was so sweet, but it was really scary, especially for my mom, because she was like, what's going on? Like, why is the baby's heart rate going down so fast? And she brought in like this suction thing, this vacuum thing, and she said that if I couldn't get the baby out in the next 3 pushes, because his heart rate is going down so fast, he's not getting oxygen, that they would have to suction him out, which I didn't want because I've heard horror stories about babies being suctioned out. So I pushed and pushed and pushed, and he was born without suction at 8:01 p.m. on September 22nd, 2019. He was 6 pounds, 14 ounces, and he was 51 centimeters long. So he was extremely long baby, but he was chunky, and he was perfect. So I had him with no suction. It was great because I was terrified that I wouldn't get him out without suction. And then they took him and they checked him, everything like that. Excuse me, he was breathing. And then they gave him to me, and they put him on my chest, and we did skin to skin for about an hour, and then my fiance held him, and they did skin to skin, and then my mom held him, and then my fiance's parents came in, and his sister came in, and then I had 3rd degree tearing, and I had also had an episiotomy, so I had a lot of stitches. I was getting stitched the whole time that I was holding my baby for the full hour doing skin to skin. I was getting stitched. The thing that I hated the most was that they turned off my epidural while I was getting stitched. So like I could feel it literally wore off in 10 minutes, and I could literally feel every single stitch that they were doing, which I don't understand why. Like if I had my time back, I would have been like, hey, can you keep it on, because like I'm being stitched. And I had a lot of stitches. I had super amount of swelling, and then they realized after when the placenta came out, that my placenta actually completely ruptured. So all the bleeding and all the clotting and everything like that was pieces of my placenta. It just completely ruptured in my stomach. They think that it was just like all the stress and everything that my body was under and trying to tolerate the pain and everything. As for they don't really know as to like if I was not giving birth, if it would have still ruptured at that point, or if it was just like a coincidence. They think it was just like the stresses of labor and all that kind of stuff, and being there for like 3 days, and trying to push in everything, that it was just like coincidence. So basically after that, we went upstairs to my room and we tried breastfeeding. I want to make a whole nother story on breastfeeding because that was a whole nother topic for me. But basically, long story short, I wasn't producing any milk, obviously, because when you first give birth, like, all you have is colostrum. But at that point, even like that, like, wasn't really coming out. Every time my baby would latch perfectly, but just like nothing was coming out, and I'm not sure why. So his blood sugar started to go down a lot. They said that he was going to go into kidney failure because he wasn't getting any food. He had to have blood work done every 45 minutes. They would have to come in and take blood from his foot in this really long tube and send it to check his pressure, his blood sugars. So at one point his blood sugars went down to 1.5. And at that point we knew that we were going to have to formula supplement while we were in the hospital at least. So we gave him his formula a few hours later after trying to breastfeed. And so what the hospital would have me do is feed my baby the formula and then pump for 20 minutes afterwards. And then feed my baby and then pump. And it would go on every 2 hours. His blood sugars did come back up. He was perfect afterwards. But then we were stuck, you know, another day at the hospital and then another day at the hospital. So then finally my baby did get discharged, but I didn't because of my blood clotting issues and everything like that. So eventually I did get discharged. I believe we were there for 4 or 5 days, and then we finally got discharged. But it sucks, like, having your baby and then having to stay there in the hospital. We're in a room with other people where you cannot get any sleep. There's babies crying, and it's just, it's a lot. And then you and your husband or your boyfriend or whoever, your partner, are there, and you want alone time with your baby, and you want to bond, and you want to be in your own bed, and you have stitches, and you want to get a shower. It sucks. But basically, we ended up being okay, and my baby is now 6 months old. He's thriving. He's doing perfectly well. I did not end up breastfeeding. I did get my milk come in, but I just decided he was doing so well on his formula, and I just didn't want his kidneys to fail or his blood sugars to go down or anything like that. So I started to pump for a little bit, but then I just was like, no, this is enough. And Siri is going off on my phone. and yeah, so basically that is my birth story. It's long, it's so complex, and I think every single mother you talk to has a different birth story. And I think that they're all unique, and they're all, you know, each their own. And I just feel like every birth story, no matter what you have, is special. And I think that every baby should be, you know, loved no matter what. And yeah, so that's basically my birth story in a nutshell. I can go totally into depth more about my breastfeeding and all that kind of stuff, which, like I said, I would love to do. I'd love to make another video about that, and I really want to put a video of like his updates. I filmed some updates of him, like, you know, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 month, 5 month, whatever. But I would really like to do that, and then him having some solids and some cereal and that kind of stuff. But I hear him on the monitor, and I think he wants me to go up with him. So I'm gonna go ahead and head up there with him now, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram. I will have it linked in the description bar below, so you can stay tuned to all of my photos and updates on what we're doing, where we've been, all that kind of stuff. Everything Christmas is all linked below. And yeah, also, if you have any questions or you just want to talk to me about anything like that, anything you're scared about, or advice or anything like that, please feel free to email me, DM me on Instagram or on YouTube as well. I would really love to talk to you guys and hear your guys' birth stories or what you're expecting on your birth story. All right, have a good day, guys. Bye.